Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. I'm not your property. That's what she said. Loud. Righteous. Like she was reciting a line she'd been dying to deliver. She stood in the middle of the living room, back straight, chin lifted, like she was ready for applause. I won't be controlled, she added, voice trembling just enough to sound noble. I didn't interrupt her. Didn't argue. Didn't explain. Because I wasn't trying to hold her anymore. She just hadn't realized it yet. She thought she was breaking chains. But there weren't any. Not anymore. I'd already let go weeks ago. What she thought was control had been commitment. What she called suffocation was structure. And the truth? She didn't want partnership. She wanted applause for walking away from something she spent years dismantling in silence. The moment she said it, "I'm free," I saw it in her eyes. That flicker. That second where her voice echoed back into the room and didn't meet resistance. Just space. Just me, standing there with the calm of a man who'd already exited, emotionally, mentally, financially. She wanted freedom? Perfect. Because I'd stopped trying to protect her from what that really meant. No more shared expenses. No more emotional labor. No more explaining myself just to justify existing beside her. That night, she packed a bag. Dramatically, like a scene in a movie. Tossed in makeup she never wore around me, clothes she hadn't touched in months. She slammed the bathroom door once, maybe hoping I'd follow. I didn't. She left around midnight. Keys jingling like a declaration of independence. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't need to. Because this wasn't rebellion. This was retreat disguised as self-liberation. And I wasn't going to stop her. I just went to bed. Slept better than I had in months. When I woke up, the apartment was quiet. Still. Clean. Her side of the closet half empty. Her coffee mug still in the sink. Her perfume lingering in the air like an afterthought. I sat at the table, made breakfast for one, and something settled in my chest. Not anger. Not relief. Just confirmation. She thought freedom meant escape. She never considered the cost. She screamed she was free. And now? She's alone in it. The first few days after she left, I expected to feel something. Anger. Relief. Sadness. Anything. But it was just quiet. And not the kind that hurts. The kind that heals. I didn't text her. Didn't check social media to see where she went. I didn't call her sister. Or any of the mutual friends who secretly took her side while pretending to stay neutral. Let them think what they want. I wasn't in the business of justifying myself anymore. Because the truth? She wasn't looking for peace. She was chasing attention. She wanted to be admired for her courage. For her growth. For walking away from a man who paid every bill, stayed loyal, and took blame for emotions she refused to own. She left claiming she needed air. As if commitment was a cage. As if compromise was control. But when the applause fades, and it always does, all that's left is the echo. By day 3, she started reaching. Not directly. Subtle things. She posted a selfie from a cafe she used to say was too loud for real conversation. Captioned it, "Learning to love solitude." I didn't like it. Didn't watch the story. Let it expire into nothing. Then came the playlist. Shared publicly. Full of breakup songs, empowerment anthems, and that one track she once called dramatic when her friend went through a divorce. I didn't listen. I didn't need a soundtrack to know who I was without her. I started waking up earlier. Hit the gym harder. Got more work done in one day than I had in weeks. Not to prove anything. Just to return to the man I used to be before I spent my energy managing someone else's chaos. Because that's what it was. Constant repair. Constant validation. A relationship where I wasn't allowed to feel without first filtering it through her approval. She used to say I was too steady. Now she's learning what stillness really feels like. By the end of the week, I got a text. Short. Casual. "Hope you're doing okay." No punctuation. No context. Just bait. I left it on read. Because sometimes, the strongest move isn't to fight back. It's to show them they're not being fought for. She didn't leave me behind. She walked away from the only person who ever held the line when her life started unraveling. She didn't want a partner. She wanted a stage. And now? She's performing alone. A week after she left, her feed started changing. Less confidence. More curation. Photos of empty wine glasses. Close-ups of food. Angled shots from her favorite rooftop spot, always alone, but framed like someone was just out of view. She wanted it to look effortless. But effort always leaks. Her captions went from poetic declarations to recycled quotes about new beginnings and choosing yourself. You could almost hear the volume drop with each post. She hadn't blocked me. She wanted me to see it. So I made the final move, not out of pettiness, but necessity. I unfollowed her. Silently. Completely. I didn't need to watch her try to narrate a version of freedom that looked more like exile. Let her wonder when I did it. Let her scroll through her followers and realize she couldn't reach me the way she used to. Because here's the truth most people avoid. Freedom without responsibility is just escape with good lighting. She'd mistaken structure for restriction, mistaken commitment for control. But now, there was no one left to rebel against. No one telling her what time to be home. No one caring what she wore. No one showing up when she didn't ask, but always needed. That same day, she posted a black screen to her story. Just text, sometimes silence is power. She was late. I'd been fluent in silence for weeks. I started deleting old photos. Not angrily, deliberately. I cleared out shared folders. Backed up what mattered for legal reasons. Erased the rest. Everything she left behind in the apartment? I boxed it up. Labeled it with her name. No pettiness. No theatrics. Just logistics. Because this wasn't heartbreak. It was an audit. One night, her best friend called. The one who used to mind her own business while always knowing too much. She left a voicemail. Hey, just checking in. She's not doing great. Maybe you could reach out. I deleted it before it finished. Because now it was clear, even to them. I wasn't waiting. Wasn't circling the perimeter hoping for a return. She screamed about freedom. Now she had it. And freedom, for someone who built their identity on resistance, is a lonely place once there's no one left to fight. Let her post through the silence. Let her crop the emptiness out of every frame. I was done being the villain in someone else's liberation story. Especially when I was the only one who ever stayed still long enough to catch her. By week 2, the silence between us wasn't just absence, it was a statement. She hadn't called. Hadn't asked to meet. But she was showing up in every way that didn't require facing herself. Mutual friends started dropping hints. She's going through a lot right now. She didn't expect this to hit her like it did. Maybe you could be the bigger person. I ignored it. Because being the bigger person used to mean apologizing for things I never did. Now it meant staying gone, even when the door creaked open just enough to let guilt crawl back in. She wanted to rewrite the narrative, cast herself as the woman who broke free, only to realize freedom isn't the same as fulfillment. I gave her nothing to push against, nothing to respond to, nothing to manipulate. That's when the real unraveling began. She reached out to my sister, pretended it was about returning a few things. But the message was transparent. It wasn't about the box. It was about the door she hoped was still cracked. My sister asked if I wanted her to respond. I told her no. Box it. Drop it. Move on. Because closure doesn't come in conversations. It comes in consequences. I didn't ghost her. I just exited so cleanly, she couldn't find a trace of who I used to be. She tried subtle moves after that. A random Venmo payment for something insignificant. For the wine that night, LOL. A shared playlist she renamed and reshared. A photo of an old key she still had, captioned "Time to let go." All attempts at soft re-entry. All ignored. She was starting to feel it now, not the loneliness. The silence. Because she wasn't used to being in a space where her voice didn't create reaction. Where her absence didn't cause panic. Where her freedom didn't spark envy. She was finally hearing what it sounds like when someone truly stops chasing. And she had nothing left to say. I kept moving. Upgraded my space. Cleared out what little of her remained. Switched routines. Different gym. New route to work. Clean inbox. Locked accounts. She once accused me of being too stable. Now she was watching that same stability close the door behind me, without a slam, without a sound. Just finality. And the scariest part? She couldn't even tell if I was angry. Because I wasn't. I was empty. And emptiness is louder than any goodbye she thought I'd give. It took 18 days. That's how long she lasted before the silence broke her rhythm. She'd spent those weeks trying to make it look like she was thriving. Brunch photos. Solo walks in the park. Vague captions about reclaiming herself. All filtered through the same screen she used to blame for ruining real connection. But that's the thing about pretending. You get tired. And tired people slip. Her first real message didn't come through text or social media. It came as a knock. 8:17 p.m. I knew it was her before I even opened the door. I didn't rush. I didn't brace. Just opened it and looked at her. Same perfume. Same jacket. Same look. The one she wore when she was about to say something rehearsed. She didn't smile, didn't cry, just stood there and said, "This feels strange." I nodded. It was strange for her, not for me. She walked in without being invited, like the past didn't exist, like she hadn't declared independence and vanished into the night like she was shedding a burden. I watched her scan the room, not for mess, for absence. She noticed the bookshelf looked different. The kitchen was cleaner, my energy colder. She sat down on the edge of the couch, as if unsure whether she was welcome or just tolerated. "I've been thinking," she started. Of course she had. But thinking isn't the same as changing. She told me she missed the routine, the calm, that things out there weren't as easy as she thought they'd be. That sometimes freedom feels like floating. I didn't interrupt her. I didn't affirm. I just listened the way I always had, steady, unreadable. She tried to touch my hand once. I moved it to adjust my sleeve. She laughed nervously, said, "You're different." I said, "I know." She stayed for 20 more minutes, pretending she had a reason to be there. Something to return. A vague excuse about a lost charger or a forgotten key. I didn't ask her to stay. Didn't walk her out. I just let her talk. Because that was the new balance. She spoke, and I no longer filled the spaces in between. Before she left, she paused at the door. Said, "It doesn't feel like home anymore." I looked at her and said, "It's not." Then closed the door behind her. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just closed. Because the moment she claimed she was free, I set myself free too. And the difference? I meant it. After that night, she didn't come back physically. But she never really left my atmosphere. Not online. Not emotionally. Not strategically. She started commenting under mutual friends' posts where she knew I'd see her. Laughing a little too loud through typed words. Dropping half-personal, half-public sentences like bait in shallow water. She always used attention as currency. Now she was overspending. I watched silently. She tagged herself at restaurants we used to go to. Checked in at places we'd once called ours. Posted a photo with someone I didn't recognize, her smile just off enough to betray the angle. She was performing connection, not living it. And everyone watching probably thought she was moving on. But I knew her too well. She was orbiting me. Not out of love. Out of absence. The kind that echoes when silence doesn't break. I kept my world clean. Precise. Private. No new uploads. No, look what you lost games. Just distance. One evening, I got a delivery. Boxed. Labeled in her handwriting. Inside, a few old books, a hoodie I hadn't worn since last winter, and a small envelope. No note. Just a photo. Us. On the beach 2 years ago. The one time she said she actually felt peace. I looked at it for less than a second. Then dropped it in the bin. Because nostalgia doesn't build futures. It weaponizes memory. And she didn't get to use mine against me anymore. She texted 2 nights later. One sentence. "Do you think we made a mistake?" I didn't reply. Because it wasn't a mistake. It was math. She subtracted herself from the equation. And now she was shocked the result wasn't the same. By week 4, I felt something unexpected. Not bitterness. Closure. The real kind. The kind that doesn't ask for permission. Because the moment I stopped asking why she left, I started remembering why I let her. She thought she was freeing herself from me. But what she never realized, what she never had the discipline to face, was this. She didn't leave me. She left herself. And I just happened to be the one standing still long enough to reflect the damage. Now, she can have all the space she wants. I've just stopped being the gravity that holds her together. There's a sound to peace. It's not music. It's not silence. It's the absence of tension. I heard it more each day she stayed gone. No more waiting for footsteps to come through the door angry. No more decoding moods. No more bracing myself for questions she didn't really want answers to. The apartment wasn't just quieter. It was cleaner. In every way that mattered. She used to leave traces, a glass on the nightstand, her charger tangled in mine. Half a plan for the weekend I was supposed to execute without opinion. All gone. And yet, she kept circling. She emailed. That was her next move. A long message dressed in reflection. No apology. Not directly. Just hints. I've been thinking a lot about who I was then. I didn't know how much you handled until you stopped handling it. She ended it with, "I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know." It read like closure. But it wasn't. It was a test. She wanted to see if I'd open the door, even halfway. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry. Because I wasn't curious anymore. The man I used to be. The one who would have written back. Offered grace. Maybe even asked if she wanted to meet. That man didn't exist now. He was a byproduct of patience stretched too thin for too long. She didn't understand that distance isn't always a pause. Sometimes it's a verdict. She started showing up in more familiar places. At the gym, a brunch spot she used to mock. A gallery opening she said was too pretentious back when I invited her. She was hoping to run into me. She didn't, because I'd already shifted my entire life 2 inches to the left, just far enough that she'd keep missing it. Not to punish, to protect. Not from her. From who I became when I let her chaos convince me it was my job to fix her imbalance. One night, I saw her outside a friend's party. I hadn't planned on going. I was walking past on my way to something better. She was laughing. Loud. Theatrical. Tense. The moment her eyes caught mine, her face changed. Half hope, half shame. I nodded once. Kept walking. She didn't follow. Because even she knew now, freedom doesn't call twice. She hung up on peace the first time. And the second? There's no dial tone left. Eventually, she stopped trying to talk. But she didn't stop trying to be seen. I heard from people, not directly, just mentions. Little things. She asked about you at Matt's thing. She said she's focusing on growth. She's not dating anyone, if that matters. It didn't. Because what no one realized, what she never truly grasped, was that my absence wasn't temporary. It was structural. I wasn't angry. I was done. And there's a difference between leaving out of frustration and leaving out of clarity. She started dating herself online. That's what it looked like. Solo hikes, journaling posts, shots of candles and quote overlays about healing your inner child. Every caption whispered to an invisible audience. See? I'm okay. See? I'm doing the work. But healing doesn't need validation. And work that's broadcast isn't transformation. It's branding. She was still chasing reflection. Still building an image in response to a man who no longer stood across from her. Because the truth? She hadn't changed. She'd just adapted to the echo of a world without me in it. She used to say I was emotionally distant. What she meant was, I didn't collapse under her chaos. She used to say I lacked passion. What she meant was, I didn't chase her when she ran. And now? Now she was finally living with the man she shaped me into. Silent, composed, unreachable. Only, I wasn't beside her anymore. I had become the ghost of her own decisions. Not out of spite. Out of preservation. One morning, I walked past the cafe we used to visit on Sundays. She was there. Alone. Sitting outside. Same table. Same drink. But different posture. No phone. No laptop. Just still. Like someone trying to feel time instead of perform through it. She looked up. Our eyes met. No smile. No wave. Just the mutual recognition of two people who once fit, and then cracked under the illusion that love could survive neglect. I kept walking. And she didn't call out. Because she understood now. The version of me she remembered no longer existed. And the version of her I once waited for? She never showed. By the 9th week, she stopped performing. No more curated posts. No more inspirational quotes. No more borrowed wisdom from people she never understood when it actually mattered. What replaced it was something quieter. Rawer. She started slipping through the background of other people's stories. Blurred in group photos. Laughing too hard at jokes that weren't funny. Nodding along in conversations she didn't lead. Because she was no longer central. She was adjusting to irrelevance. One of her friends reached out, the quiet one. The one who never said much, but always watched too closely. She misses you, she wrote. She's changed. But people don't change in the wake of loss. They just reflect. And reflection isn't the same as repair. You can stare in the mirror all day and still not fix the thing that's broken inside you. She didn't want me back. She wanted the version of herself she lost when I stopped being there to define her. That's what they never admit. People like her. They mistake the presence of calm for control and the removal of structure for abandonment. But I never left her behind. I let her go forward into the life she swore she wanted. Unfiltered. Untethered. Unclaimed. And now? She was circling back, not to rebuild, but to rewrite. She sent a final message. One sentence. If there's anything left between us, tell me now. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I was unsure, but because I knew this was the last scene in a story I no longer starred in. I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to hurt her. Because I didn't. I felt nothing. And that's what made it final. That's what made it real. She didn't deserve rage. She didn't earn forgiveness. What she got was the truth. Unspoken. The kind of truth that echoes louder than any apology, any plea, any performance. And in that moment, I understood something she never would. Closure isn't a conversation. It's a decision. And mine had already been made. The last message sat there for days. Unread, unanswered, unnecessary. She'd spent so long trying to craft a version of herself that looked untouchable, unbothered, unbreakable, and now, even her words sounded hollow. Because when someone asks if there's anything left, they already know the answer. They're not looking for love. They're begging to not be forgotten. But forgetting her wasn't the goal. Erasure wasn't the plan. What I chose was bigger. I removed the access, the emotional hallway, the invisible bridge, the back door she thought would always stay unlocked. I sealed it, not out of pride, out of peace. Because peace, real peace, is never loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't declare victory. It just stops showing up for what no longer serves it. That week, I changed the last of my passwords, cleared the final shared folder, removed the calendar entries that used to sync across our devices. And I breathed. Not relief, not triumph, just air. Unfiltered, unshared. Mine. I donated the last hoodie she ever borrowed. Deleted the backup photos I kept, just in case. Boxed up the gifts, the cards, the handwritten promises that never meant anything in the long run. It wasn't anger. It was cleansing. Because sometimes, the most powerful act isn't revenge, it's removal. And once you've removed someone not from your space, but from your mind, they can't touch you anymore. That's when the real silence begins. Not the quiet between messages. The stillness within you. And that's where I live now. Not in bitterness. Not in memory. But in clarity. She walked away to prove something. Came back hoping I hadn't learned anything. But I did. I learned that loyalty, when handed to someone reckless, turns into a leash. That presence, when taken for granted, becomes invisible. And that love, when unreciprocated, becomes a lesson. She wanted freedom. She got it. And in that freedom, she lost the one thing that made her feel steady. Me. But she won't cry about it. She'll just keep spinning stories. Telling half-truths. Selling empowerment dressed in regret. While I won't say a word. Because the best closure is never needing to explain why you closed the door. Been through it? When they crossed a line and you made sure they felt it.